Hello and welcome to Somerville Community Access Television and Greater Somerville's continuing coverage of the 2015 municipal elections. I'm Joe Lynch, producer and host of Greater Somerville, and it is my pleasure to introduce you to the 5 Alderman-at-Large candidates whose names will appear on the November 3rd, 2015 ballot. The 5 candidates for Somerville Alderman-at-Large are John Connolly, Sean Fitzgerald, Mary Jo Rossetti, Dennis Sullivan, and William White. We hope you find these candidate profiles helpful when you vote in this year's election. If you need more information about voting in this year's municipal election, please visit the City of Somerville's website or call the Elections Department at City Hall. As always, stay safe, stay informed, and thank you for watching. And I'm here with multiple-term Alderman Jack Connolly. Jack is now running again for Alderman-at-Large. He and his family make their home in the Davis Square District of the City of Somerville. It is my pleasure to welcome back to Somerville Community Access Television, Alderman-at-Large Jack Connolly. Welcome back.
Joe, it's always a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Well, you are quite welcome. You know, we do this as a courtesy to all the candidates in the city. And I think, I was trying to think back, Jack, I think this is our 5th time that you and I have faced off across the table, and we're still doing it.
And you know what, Joe, for me, really, it's fun. It's a great chance for me to help get a little more information out to people in the community. Not everybody here has been here a long time now. Thankfully, a lot of people found the city, and it's a great opportunity for them to find a little bit about what SCAT has and what I'm all about.
Well, speaking of which, you know, Jack, it's always better coming from you, your background. You know, as you say, there are folks who have arrived since last election. They may want to know who these government officials are and the elected officials. So tell the folks a little bit about yourself.
Joe, happy to. I'm a second-generation son of Irish immigrants who left their native land because they couldn't eat the view, as my grandfather said. Settled right here in Union Square, actually. Raised 9 members of the family, including my dad, and as a result, I've lived here in Somerville my entire life since early 1950s. Went to school here. I now make my day job here in Davis Square, running a small insurance agency with several Somerville natives as well. I've had the good fortune of serving the city as a ward alderman in the Davis Square area for quite a while, and have had the good fortune now to serve the entire city since 2008, and my ward background gave me a great opportunity to deal with much larger and broader city issues. Fortunately, I have the pleasure of being married to my wife Gail and the dad of 3 wonderful girls, all who have gone through the Somerville school system and have done well. Thankfully, they have my wife's good looks and brains and my stamina, so things have gone well.
That was very well done, Jack. I'm sure that your wife Gail will appreciate that too. So, Jack, we're going to talk about the elephant in the room, as I've said to the other candidates, which is one of the biggest issues facing anyone here in the city is the affordability issue. Whether it's the cost of living in the city itself, the fees and fines from the city, but I think the majority of what they're talking about is housing. The cost of rents have skyrocketed and gone through the roof. First-time home buyers, some first-time home buyers are afraid to even look at the real estate in this city. Let's frame it from the standpoint of the affordability, the way that we see it today, what the city is trying to do in terms of trying to keep it affordable, especially for those who have lived their entire lives in the city, or seniors and first-time home buyers coming in. Take it away.
Sure. Well, let's look first at the big picture, Joe, and that we're all products of the post-war boom, and way back when Franklin Delano Roosevelt, as part of the New Deal, instituted the Fannie Mae, specifically designed to help low-income and middle-income families. What's happened now? Fannie Mae is getting out of that business. Look in the papers the last several days. There have been a number of stories about what's happening. Fannie Mae, the mortgage lender, has basically put people out of homes in low-income and middle-income areas, and are now allowing those homes to be sold at auction to high-value people who basically are displacing those folks. Is that fair? I don't think so. It wasn't designed to do it. It's doing it. So it's not just a Somerville problem. It's a regional, state, and it's a national problem. A number of other communities around the country have that particular issue. Here in Somerville, I wish we could wave a magic wand, Joe, and make everything the same for everybody. We can't do that. However, we have been very proactive here with elderly housing. Anybody who's new to the city can look around and see that we have a plethora of available elderly and low-income housing, because our predecessors in government have made it a priority to make sure we have much more elderly and low-income housing in a lot of our neighboring communities. Can we do more? We're certainly doing our best to make sure. The feds have gotten out of the housing business. The state, not a lot better, so it's basically on us.
When you say the feds and the state are getting out of the housing business, I think you're referring to federal housing projects, such as we have two in the city. We have up at North Street, and we have the Mystic View.
Right, and there's both federal and state levels down at Mystic, but yes, you're right. It's that subsidized stuff, and there are a number of Section 8 certificates that are subsidized here by both the federal and the state level that are used to get units here in the city. We have hundreds of those, which are a great assist, but it's not. So it can't be done by itself.
As a consequence of those two entities really getting out of the housing business, it's now falling to the municipalities to figure out how to house less than affluent folks. And that's where it comes into the affordable housing initiatives in the city. Right now, we're sitting at a 12.5% set aside for multiple unit, anything over 6, I believe it is. And the city is trying to go through some zoning changes at this point because of our gentrification, because of our renaissance. We're changing the zoning to allow greater density, specifically around transit sites, Union Square, for example, Assembly Square, some other locations across the city. But there are some, Jack, who are saying that we're not moving fast enough because the developers are here, they're building, and they're not being required to set aside more affordable housing. Your take on those two components, the rezoning and the initiatives that are out there to take it from 12.5 to 15 to possibly 20?
First off, I have no issues with going from 12.5 to 15 and perhaps even to 20, because the market will bear that particular cost. All you have to do is look to our neighbor in Boston and see the huge number of units that are being done there. The developers
and Boston's high density, some of them are at 20%.
Correct,
right.
And I don't think we'll have an issue with that because the timing is right. The timing, again, Joe, because the city is looking at updating the zoning, which has been in place for some 25 years, and we're doing it because of what you mentioned earlier. We're going to be seeing transit stops here, right here in Union Square for the beginning, and then there'll be 4 more coming right afterwards. Our summer vision plan that took 3 years and 60-odd people to develop and plan is pushing the higher density around the transit stop so people can walk to the stations to get into town and do their business. Makes that a major advantage and a big draw. We can see it right here in Union Square now, Joe, because even well before the subway station arrives, the cost of housing has gone up here. People are obviously seeing that as a benefit. I see that as a major draw to the community because we know gas prices can go up and go down. They're down now, but a year from now they could be back up again. People want to be near public transportation. It's basically, I think, what Somerville is drawing because of the other successes the city's had in many ways. People want to be close and nearby. They can take the advantages of getting in and out of Boston, Cambridge, other areas. Route 2, 93 are all close by for those people who do drive. So we offer location, location, and location again for those folks.
Location, 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 Jack. But you know, one of the wrinkles in that is the $1 billion overrun on the Green Line. What happens? And I'm not going to ask it, corner you, but are there discussions taking place at the Board of Aldermen and City Hall? What if the Green Line gets delayed again, and we're still allowing the developers to build at the 12.5?
Well, I don't see a problem with moving ahead on the 12.5 up to 15 because whether the Green Line is delayed a short period of time, and my guess is maybe be short, but I think the political will has driven that process. I think the governor is only trying to make sure we don't have a big dig 2 with the Green Line and is doing as he should, making sure the controls there. If we have to rebid something because the prices came in way too high. All right, that's the prudent thing to do. We've already spent $500 million in money, so I don't think it's going to be tossed out. As a result, it might be delayed, but I think it's going to be going forward. My take is we can move up to certainly 15%, and based on what the market will bear, we've got plenty of experts in the city and in the region to tell us what the forecast will be. So 15 certainly at a very minimum ought to be the city's view from now.
You know the city like the back of your hand, Jack. Tell us what some of the voters are talking about: the parking issues, the rats, the taxes, the water and sewer rates, the fees, the fines, the crime.
Let's start with the crime first, Joe, because the people, the new folks that move in, as you know, I have a 2-year-old dog that I walk pretty regularly, and I meet a lot of people on the community path or walking through the squares, and people tell me how much they enjoy it here. And what I hear all the time is, I really feel safe, particularly from young men and women who are new to the community. I really feel comfortable here. I feel like there's so much activity that I'm comfortable here. Check with the police. The crime wave has really gone down dramatically for any kind of violent assault type crimes because of cell phones and the proximity of people. As far as public health issues, we had a huge spike a couple of years ago in East Somerville for rodent activity because of the very mild winter, and rodents bred like crazy. This past winter, thanks to all the cold, snow, and ice, those numbers have declined. Do we still have issues in East Somerville? Yes, we do. Other parts of the city where new construction is going on, we do. But the numbers have gone down dramatically. You can look at the numbers and see the charts of call-ins to 311 about activity. Are there flare-ups here and there? There certainly are. But covering the dumpsters, inspecting the restaurants, make sure the trash barrel are covered. Those tickets, although people may not like them, they have been more effective. Nobody likes traffic tickets, Joe. None of us like getting them. But it is an incentive for people to be more careful. We do a great job at the street sweeping. Many people have awareness. You can sign up for phone, text, email alerts. The opportunities are there to get warnings, so I don't think it's a major issue. People mention it, but they grumble, but they really don't complain. They know it's a help.
We're going to, speaking of quality of life issues, we're going to have a change in the snow removal policy this year. I saw the press release that came out from City Hall.
I did.
We're going to make many, many people happy, and we're going to anger some people. Why don't you talk a little bit about what you're hearing from the constituency about this new snow removal policy?
Joe, I can tell you, having served quite a while as a ward alderman in the Davis, Ball Square, and Potter Square area, every winter, except for calls about parking, snow removal was probably the second largest number of calls. Now it's emails, but that is a huge concern every winter. This past couple of winters, people, hey, it's just not fair. The perception of unfairness that drives most people. Hey, how come I have to live with this? No one mentioned when I bought my house that this was going to be the case, that I'd have the snow plow back on my sidewalk. Now the perception is, at least this will be fair. I may not like it no matter what side of the street you're on when you've just shoveled the walk and driveway and all of a sudden a plow comes along, makes the street open again, but at least the perception is that it will be fair. I think the concept is a good one, and that perception that it's fair to all is going to make life a little bit more livable for people.
Well, you've been up the street, my street. You've
More than a few
canvassed my
times.
street, so you know it's the width of a driveway, and both sides get it, no matter what kind of plow you send up. You know, the mayor has some, we're moving on to cost in the city again, Jack. The mayor has some grandiose plans on new high school, new library, new police headquarters, new fire headquarters. That's going to take a considerable amount of money. That usually falls to borrowing. Your thoughts on moving forward with those proposals?
Sure. Well, I think people have heard me a long time say government exists primarily for two reasons: to provide for the public safety and to provide for education. And from my point of view, anything you do to improve public safety, and that includes fixing the old car barn right here in Union Square that has housed the police department for a long time and a little bit of the fire department. Time for an overhaul. They can perhaps live somewhere else in the city. It's a good idea to look at how to do that, take care of our men and women in both the police and fire service, and put them in fire stations that will access neighborhoods quickly. Makes sense, good thing to do. That's our first priority and should be explored. Second, as far as the new high school goes, like I said, government should be it should be our second priority. Our high school building is 130 years old for one portion of it. There's about $10 million in brickwork necessary. It certainly served the city well. The School Building Assistance Fund, Joe, through the state of Massachusetts, may allow us up to 80% of the funds. It's incumbent on us to look at alternative sites, whether we build it on site there at the high school up on Highland Ave, or we look at possibly going to where the DPW is down in Franey Road. The DPW could live at either end of the city and other locations. We'd have the use of the field next to the school. That could be a possibility. We already own the land. The borrowing capability, Joe, we have a very high bond rating. Moody's, all the bond rating people have us rated very high in the A ranges. As long as we maintain the consistent sources of our income, it makes sense and it's prudent for us to look at these as options for a police, fire, or a new high school. There's also the talk about a new library here. We have a number of opportunities to avail ourselves of library funds. The Carnegie Foundation still makes monies available. We would perhaps be looking, and the mayor said, down the road for perhaps a new library. Building presently up in Highland has served us all very well, but
And a magnificent building.
a wonderful building that we will preserve because it's a Carnegie building, and that will be very well utilized by the city.
Let me go back to one thing. I would say that, utilizing the land that's existing behind the high school, there you can have density and you can go up, and I don't think you're going to get a whole lot of complaints from neighbors. But Jack, let me point the viewers to your website and how they can get a hold of you.
Certainly, I'm very accessible, Alderman, aldermanjackconnolly.com. We have information available there. We keep that updated. I'm also on Facebook, and I'm also on Twitter. It's all in the information's on the website. I tend to send some notices out every day. We're certainly asking people to consider coming out on November 3rd to support the efforts that all of us, the at-large members and the aldermen from the individual wards, all but Ward 6 are uncontested. Seems most people think that they're doing a good job.
One of the newcomers to the city asked me, how can I get a hold of the alderman at large? And I said, well, one of them I know all you have to do is go down Davis Square. You find him anytime. Alderman at large, Jack Connolly, I want to thank you for joining us today.
Joe, it's a pleasure being here, and I'd certainly welcome you to come in to 19 College Ave, say hello, stop in.
Best wishes on November 3rd.
Thank you, Joe.
This has been a production of Somerville Community Access Television. My guest has been Alderman at large, Jack Connolly. As always, stay safe, stay informed. See you next time.